coming up later. Here's a little bit about her.
Diet consists of fruits, nuts, vegetables, and seeds. I do a lot of sprouting of seeds, and as you can see from my garden, of course, these are the raw fruits that I eat.
Shake, shake, shake your banana, shake it and drink it down. I did say we were going to have fun in this kitchen, and I mean it.
You're listening to the MalaniKai Show, live on Love 860 and streaming online at love860.com.
Attention homeowners 62 and older.
My website is MalaniKai.com. As I was talking about earlier in the show, I got hacked, but we've got something back up in there. I appreciate all of you listening, tuning in from wherever you're tuning in. Cassandra Riggins won those tickets. Thank you, everyone, for calling. Congratulations, Cassandra. You stole my tickets. I hope you enjoy yourself tonight. As promised, I first saw this story about maybe 2 weeks ago, and I said, oh man, this would be great, because I come from a family, grew up on a farm in upstate New York, but then my parents, I call my parents kooks all the time, because we moved off the farm, but now they're in the city. They've got a garden, and I call them kooks. Everything in the refrigerator is kooky stuff. I mean, but they're healthy, they're into the natural stuff, but I call them kooks. And so when I saw this story about Annette Larkins, it pretty much went viral on the internet. And here's a little bit more about her. Tanya Rogers reports.
Annette Larkins shows off her garden in her Miami-Dade County backyard. It's full of fruits and vegetables. Every corner of her garden has something that is edible.
And I've been eating them, and they're so good.
Annette says the food in her garden is her fountain of youth.
I'm very vibrant. I have lots of energy, as I told you before. I'm up at no later than 5:30 in the morning as a rule, and I'm ready to go.
She does not eat any animal products. Her food is unprocessed and uncooked.
My diet consists of fruits, nuts, vegetables, and seeds. I do a lot of sprouting of seeds, and as you can see from my garden, of course, these are the raw fruits that I eat.
Annette also juices fruits and veggies. Amos Larkin says people even wonder if Annette is his wife.
They'll ask me, what am I doing with their young girl? Or they'll say, you got your granddaughter with you.
So how old is this size 4 beauty? Annette just turned 70 years old.
Annette Larkins, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you coming. We got you there, Annette Larkins?
I
think our signal, do you hear her, Jared? I think
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now. Okay, that's Jared in there. I'm going to have to fire him. Annette Larkins, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. I'm delighted.
You are a fascinating, to say the least. I just don't have the words in my vocabulary. You're a fascinating woman, and when I first saw that piece, I said, I have got to get her on the show. And I've got people listening and watching, especially they're seeing the video. I mean, it's one thing to talk to you, but to actually see the video and to see somebody that's 70 who looks like they're like 30 or 40 years old. How did this happen?
Well, I began back in 1963 to change my path. I became a vegetarian, let's put it that way, and it had nothing to do with nutrition. I was nutritionally ignorant. I knew about your 4 basic food groups at that time, and it just so happened that I began to really abhor the taste, touch, smell of dead animal flesh. I don't know where it came from. In retrospect, I realized it seemed like it happened all of a sudden, but in retrospect, I realized that this is where it would culminate for me. Eventually, I had no way of knowing that at the time, but there were certain things that had occurred in my life that dictated that this is where it should be. So, back in 1963, one Saturday morning, having removed pork chops from the freezer for our evening meal, when I went to check on the progress of the thawing chops, I just began to abhor the taste. I didn't want to look at them. I didn't want to smell them. I didn't want to taste them. Now, in spite of that, I continued to cook 2 separate meals, one for me and one for my family, for 18 years. That's how it all began. And then the next step that I took did have to do with nutrition. Being the bibliophile that I am a reader of whatever. And I came across material that led me further onto the path. I gave up the refined sugar, flour, all the white stuff at that point, and then later it was dairy products, and then progressed down to where I am right now in the raw food world, loving it, living it, having a great time being here.
Annette Larkins on the MalaniKai Show, 404-355-8699 if you have a question for her. Now, what is we hear a lot of different terminologies about like raw foods and vegetarians and vegans. Raw foods this literally means that you do not eat anything that is cooked?
That is correct. And of course, that that excludes dead animal flesh in any form. So it's a plant-based diet, of course. And you have people who are raw when they say vegetarians who are vegetarians, but then it doesn't necessarily mean that they're vegan. The vegan excludes the dairy products, the eggs, and that kind of thing. And then being a raw vegan means that I abstain from that as well. No dairy products, no animal products, that kind of thing. So it is a complete, and I do not partake of cooked foods. I don't, take anything. I do use dried foods that have been put in a dehydrator at very low temperatures, but that doesn't constitute any high heating, you see.
Yes, ma'am. I said, you know what? I said it's very, very hard for me, as we talked about Sunday. It's very hard for me. I grew up in that era where you had to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. And I told you, you said you don't have to call me Mrs. I said, okay, when I get on the radio, I'll say Annette Larkins. But so forgive me if it slips out, if the yes, ma'am, yes, sir. I mean,
it's
no,
okay.
ma'am slips
In
out.
reality, it's whatever you're comfortable with, but I just want you to understand that I am respected without having to be called Mrs. And so many people do it. I'm so accustomed to being called Annette. That's who I am.
Yes, ma'am. Now let's talk a little bit more about this, because you fall into the category, as we talked about, you fall into the kook category that I call my parents. And we talked about it, right? And you told me, we shared stories. You said, tell me the story you said when they asked your son, what is it exactly that you eat? He said, what, grass?
Years ago, he said, just give her a piece of bark off of a tree, or some grass, and she's satisfied. That is what he would tell people when they would ask, well, what does your mother eat? Because it's just so different from what people were accustomed to. People are becoming more accustomed to it now. People are ready actually to join into the fold because they know they can see that it works.
And if somebody says to you that, okay, I want this, I think the thing that sells it's not just that you're a raw foodist. The things that sells this is how you look. It is your look, because I'll be honest with you. When I go to the natural food stores here in Atlanta, there's one in particular. There are a lot of vegans there, and those vegans look like they are about to die. They look as dead as the animals they're not eating that I eat. Okay, they look like they are about to crawl over and die. They look terrible. Seriously, they look terrible. And I'm thinking, why would I want to become a vegan and you guys look just as dead as the animals that the pork chop that Annette Larkins doesn't like? Okay, however, looking at you and anybody that sees you visually, you look fantastic. You just look great. And you said you did not do this based on because I want to look great when I'm 70. What are the benefits that you're seeing aside from your look? What are some of the benefits that you're getting from being a raw foodist?
Well, for one thing, I haven't taken an aspirin in so long that if I took one, I think my body would jump up. I'd do flips and jump in somebody's pool and drown myself. So there is no traditional, conventional medication in my body whatsoever, and hasn't been for many, many years. So I am not into that. Of course, I think my mind, I've always had a good memory. I have an excellent memory, and I've always had a good memory because I think I've practiced. I've used my brain and efficiently, and of course none of us use it to its full potential, but I've always done that. But I think that I am just as sharp or even possibly sharper than in my younger days. I think that I am able to process things better than I ever have been able to do so. And forget that thing they talk about your memory, and scientists will say that something happens with your brain cells that certainly potentially put you in the position to be forgetful. and that kind of thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I don't see that. I'm not experiencing that. So that's one good thing. It gives me, I am energized to the hilt. I have more energy than I absolutely need. If we could bottle it and sell it, then hey, there would be millionaires surrounding us because I have more energy than I need. And, I mean, I think I may have mentioned to you, I walk 8 miles a day.
Well, no, ma'am. We mentioned a lot because I think we talked for about 10 hours, but I don't think we mentioned the walking. How many miles a day?
8 hours. I have my gym in my home, and I use my treadmill, and I'll do maybe 4 or 5 on there. And maybe sometimes, depending on, hey, sometimes I get into it and I just keep on walking. But I may do 6 maybe. But the thing is,
you're 70. You're 70. Does that not register to you?
I walk up and down my spiral staircase until I have done 50 floors a day.
You're embarrassing me right now. I did 4 miles at the gym today, and I'm just bragging. I feel embarrassed right now, and everybody here in the studio, their mouths are wide open. Annette Larkins, we have to take a break. We've got a caller from California that wants to talk to you. We have some people in the studio that want to ask you some questions. So when we get back from the break, call in now because we only have 15 more minutes left. 404-355-8699. We are going to talk more to Annette Larkins.
You're listening to the MalaniKai Show, live on Love 860 and streaming online at love860.com.
Attention homeowners 60